Hi guys, welcome back to my channel for another week of How Dance Healed Me. This is where we talk all about mental health, dance, movement, my experiences throughout all of them and all of the in-between. So thank you so much for coming back for another episode. Here I'm going to be starting to talk just about mental health in general because I feel like there is so much more that I can include in how dance and movement has specifically helped me through so many different sort of mental health issues. So I've created a bit of a mini series for you, and this first one is just the introduction. I will be then handing on to anxiety more specifically, depression, a little bit of some triggering sort of themes in the later weeks. But I'm really excited to sort of get a little bit deeper into how movement and dance can really help your mindset. So I guess the premise to start out with is, what are we talking about? We are talking about mental health. Now, mental health obviously starts in the mind, and that is where dance and movement specifically can really come into play. Because when we move, when we really breathe and we connect to our body, we tend to disassociate what's going on in the mind. You know, you sort of get in a bit of a zone. I'm sure many of you have felt it. Maybe you felt like you've just been distracted from something that has been going on in your mind. In actual fact, you're more embodied and you're more present in that moment, because it means that you've allowed yourself to experience what's going on in that moment, rather than getting caught up with what's in the mind and allowing those thought processes to sort of keep cycling on. So just a couple of examples that come to mind that I want to mention is about when we have a difficult conversation with someone, or we perhaps get in a bit of an argument, or there's a little bit of tension between someone, maybe a housemate, maybe a family member, maybe someone that you sort of work with day to day. And when you go through these sort of difficult conversations or interactions, it is really healthy for both of you to be able to come back to yourself and come back to your own sense of independency and where you feel you really stand. And so when we get out of the mind, we actually shift our perspective a lot. Have you ever had that, where you sort of have been distracted and then you come back to a situation, you feel like, I feel like so much time has passed, or I feel like I've just woken up from a dream almost. So what's happening there is you've been in a certain situation and then you've actually become more present. You've allowed the mind to just quieten. You've been really focused on one situation. Perhaps that has been a distraction. Perhaps that has been something that you have really focused on. Maybe it's a physical thing. Maybe it's an activity. And then when you've come back to what you were thinking about, your perspective may have changed slightly, and that's really healthy to gain a little bit more insight, just see the other perspective. So a little bit more of an empathetic way of looking at things, a bit more compassion for the other person or for the situation, and even compassion for yourself, giving yourself that time to reflect in a healthy way, rather than getting caught up in the mind that's sort of whirring on based on what someone said in that specific moment. Because there are so many different things that can distract us from our true understanding and point of view. We can get distracted from triggers, from, a traumatic experience that has been brought up from the past maybe. There are so many different things that can really be influencing our decision or our viewpoint at that moment in time that we might not realize. We might be, stressed because of something else that happened that day. We might be thinking about, a possible eventuality of the situation that doesn't really exist, or, might not happen. Or we could be coming from, a really authentic and genuine place, and the other person perhaps needs space and time to allow another perspective, one that is a little bit more forgiving, to come into play as well. So it really does have a massive benefit for both of you and for the situation in general. And finally, what I want to mention about this and about how movement and dance in particular come into play is that it's just fun. It really gets you out of that stress. It really shakes off any unwanted energy, any unwanted thoughts or associations that you might be trying to bring into the situation. You know, it might be a voice of your mother, it might be a voice of your friend, but you know, that voice of the situation even going on and on. But when you really shake it off and you have fun and you dance afterwards, you just feel a lot better about everything. B, you have more of a hopeful inclination, which is something I'll talk more in depth on, to see that, you know, realistically, is it worth it? You can check yourself a little bit more. What is the most important thing in this moment? And if it is still really important, maybe you have the space and you have the strength and independence more to say it from a lot more of a listening point of view, and giving the other person time and space to say their side of the story as well. Because when we feel good, we just want others to feel good, and we tend to resolve conflict a lot better. And although some conflict isn't necessarily what one would associate with mental health, a lot of this conflict is our own inner conflict. It's what's going on in our mind. It's the battles, it's the arguments that we're having with ourselves, with those so-called good and bad parts of ourselves, you know, with what we truly feel is us and what we feel someone else has said, and you know, trying to figure out what really aligns with us and how we can really help ourselves in stopping those battles and those arguments in our head. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've got a lot from this video. I will be continuing with a little bit more in depth of my personal experiences of anxiety in the next episode. Please give this video a like, put your comments in the comment section below, and I very much look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now, guys. So thank you so much, guys, for joining me again. I hope you enjoyed this mini series where next week we will be talking about anxiety. Please give this video a like, put your comments down in the section below, and I'll be sure to get back to you all, and subscribe so you can know what is going on in this channel very soon. And can't wait to see all of you guys next week for another episode of How Dance Heals Me.